Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We are back from break. When we left our heroes, they had performed a daring excursion, run, raid, escape. I don't really know. They had crossed the lands of the Stone Men by tricking Gravelock into thinking that he had received a premonition of danger for his family. Their trickery, however, was quickly discovered, and the party had to make a break for it. Fortunately, they were not seen during this situation, so the giants had no idea what they were looking for. While the rest of the party escaped, Bones had a little mini-adventure with Mossy and decided to harvest some crystals and nearly get himself caught by Gravelock in the process. But now everyone has reconvened. They have traveled down to the 8th level of the dungeon, Slither Swamp, and they have made it out into the fetid swamp itself. The stink of vegetative decay on the air, little swarms of midges hovering in the humid, kind of damp atmosphere. And Matashtai has just finished asking Risk about the dangers of the level and what to expect. And that is where we find ourselves. So, as you all watch Risk kind of like walk out onto this precipice, breathe deeply of the stinking air, honestly, right? And then kind of like proclaim that he has finally made it home. Everyone can add 800 experience to their character sheets for completing the quest Homeward Bound.
Matt,
Love that movie.
Matt, do you need to do your little dancey thingy?
Dance? You are muted.
I said, yeah, I probably should. I think last time I did it, it gave me the impression it was a little bit deeper down, but we'll give it a try.
Okay.
Yeah, is that maybe Sassy? That's the name of the cat in Homeward Bound.
Yep. Yes, you are Sassy.
Yes.
Yeah. What was it, 800 or 850?
800.
800.
You are
Okay.
definitely sassy.
So, Matashtai, you're going to do your kata?
Yeah, I'm gonna kick over into my kata, see if I can get a bead on anything.
Okay, Matashtai steps kind of like off to the side, out of the way, and begins to perform his kata. As he does this, you all can see out across from this precipice. You can see out into the beginnings of the Slither Swamp. It's kind of like this vast open section, but the ceiling here is actually relatively low considering how wide the cavern is. It's only about 30 feet from the ceiling right down to the kind of swampy surface of this bog that you're overlooking. There are midges coasting around above the swamp in large clouds, significantly larger clouds than you kind of like met in the tunnel. Like the kind of clouds that if you walked into, it would not be a pleasant experience, right? And blinking here or there in the darkness, you see fireflies, many of which are congregating around these strange fungal plants that are sprouting up out of the swamp. And this casts the cavern in these strange splotches of eerie light. Enough, it seems, for Risk to be able to orient himself and find his way around without issue. Kind of the scenario of like, it's never consistent, but it's never dark in any one place for very long. And then, I think, generally speaking, you guys can see this. Right, like you can see because of the multitude of like little swarms of fireflies, but you can see there are tunnels leading off from this place in all different directions, right? But Risk does not seem concerned in any way, shape, form, or fashion. He's just standing there kind of like waiting for Matashtai to finish his kata. Is anyone else doing anything while Matashtai is going through the motions of this?
No.
Okay, cool. So Matashtai, you begin to go through the motions of your kata. And you do get this sense as you finish, right, extending Tonbokiri out the lodestone. It does dip pretty quickly. It's not an instantaneous kind of moment. It does kind of dip, and you feel a connection, an actual like significant a connection between yourself and the lodestone. And between Valena in your mind, and you can kind of feel her like you did the last time. You can hear her. She says, "Still further to go. We're close, though. Not. I don't know if it will be the next, but we're close."
We'll get there.
Slowly but surely. All right.
So then I kind of go back to putting Tamakiri back on my back. Not here. A little bit deeper yet.
All right.
All right then. You say we're on a precipice? How high is said precipice?
It's only about 2 or 3 feet high.
Oh, hell yeah. All right.
Seeing you all kind of like ready yourselves, Risk looks at you, right?
And I say, where to?
He just kind of like steps down into the bog, into the swamp, and immediately goes up to like thigh in the swamp.
Oh,
Great.
Oh boy.
I commence jogging in circles around the party.
Yeah,
So
go
that I
ahead.
never go into the water.
I don't think it works that way. I think
He just has to never stop.
that's you have to be going like a critical speed to be able to actually stay on top of the water.
Bro, not say that.
I do not think, for instance, I do not think you get to walk on the water.
Naruto does, bro. Just
Well,
saying.
he's not Naruto.
Boruto does.
I don't care. He's not Boruto. He is none of the ninjas from the hit
He's at the
anime
very least,
Naruto.
goddamn, he's very least fucking
Nin
Boruto.
nin.
Boruto's a little piece of shit, so he's at least that.
So
Jeremy, could
I'm
I
saying.
have ritually cast water breathing on everyone while he was doing the kata?
how long does ritual water breathing take?
10 minutes.
10 minutes and 6 seconds.
It's not 10 minutes for 10 minutes for his kata. I can definitely tell you that. You can cast it, but if so, you're gonna have to tell, hey guys, do you want to,
wait.
you know,
I think it's a good idea because
Not including two.
water.
you guys want to wait?
Also, it just says I can move along vertical surfaces and across liquids.
Sure.
It doesn't
You
say
can
at critical speed.
you can try to go whatever route you want with this, but I'm definitely gonna veto power on this one. It makes 0 sense in my mind canon for Matashtai to just casually walk around everyone, and as long as he keeps moving, walk on the surface of the water.
Don't break the surface tension.
No, bullshit.
I'm so light
No.
on my feet.
No, bullshit. Absolutely not.
I'm like Legolas.
Absolutely
walking on
not.
snow.
Nope.
I agree with Matt.
One of the times he walks around me, I trip him.
You try to trip him.
Okay,
I
so-
land on my hand, which also counts as a foot, and continue handspringing around.
So-
Sorry, a hand counts as a foot?
Right?
Hey, baby, what that foot do?
So you guys
So,
are
and-
going to go through the process. Ezra is going to ritually cast water breathing. So that's going to take a few minutes. Is anyone else doing anything while you are waiting for Ezra to finish his casting?
Guess I'll just hop down. I asked Mossy, hey Mossy, how you handle this?
Mossy actually like looks at you and he kind of like, he looks like he's frowning at you, right? Kind of grumbling a little bit, and he goes, "Everything's too wet."
You wet for what?
Kind of like looks down at the swamp, and he's just not good. don't like.
Okay.
It's moss covered it's moss covered
Wow.
rock near stream, not moss covered rock in stream.
All right. Well, you just want to hang out like down there, under. What happens if you come up into water?
Immediately drowns.
He looks at you and he says, "Fine."
All right. Well, do your thing, brother. And I'll hop down.
You see
Yeah,
him
I'm
just
gonna-
he sinks out of view into the stone.
you said there's,
He-
like,
you get the
parts of
impression
mines
like he's
everywhere?
around, but he's not interested in jumping into the swamp.
Yeah, I figured.
Also, you're slowly building up poison in the water. Welcome to Blighttown.
Welcome to Blighttown.
Miyazaki!
While you are all kind of waiting
To
for
poison. Let's
Ezra,
go.
while you are all kind of
Born
waiting
for
for
this.
Ezra to finish his ritual
Roll.
casting, Risk kind of like begins to duck down, right? Kind of like do the squats in the swamp, right? And yeah, you see him begin to kind of like go down to eye level and begin to kind of like swim around just a little bit.
And land shark in
It
it?
doesn't work very well because it is relatively shallow in this area. Like I said, it only comes up to like Risk's thigh, right? But he is able to kind of like scrunch his body down and just kind of like casually, slowly swim around. And he looks, I mean, he doesn't look happy because he never looks happy, but he looks as happy as you've probably seen him.
He looks like a content frog.
Right? He's a content frog. And he begins to kind of like he begins to make these small croaking noises. Just these kind of like brr, 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 brr. And then you hear to the east, you hear this very faint brr, brr,
Oh, shit.
burp, burp. And you see swimming up very cautiously at a distance, right? You see several it's hard to see them because they're intentionally like staying low in the water and hidden, but you see occasionally the fireflies, the light from their bodies kind of like bounce off of the yellow eyes of several bullywugs that are moving towards you in the water.
I see circles.
Yeah.
Very faintly.
Me too.
Oh, that's a different frog. He's special.
So these bullywug continue to move towards you, and Risk continues to kind of like croak. This time now in kind of like more elongated. It sounds more like speech rather than like just a signal that went out initially. It sounds like Risk is now speaking, but he's doing it in a very long, drawn-out kind of way. It doesn't seem just like natural, casual speech. Ezra, you don't still have comprehend languages up, do you?
Has it been more than an hour?
Would be getting close. We'll say it's kind of like coming up on the tail end of it. You're concentrating, right? You're trying to cast your spell right now, so you're distracted. So you don't catch everything, but what you do catch is the realization that what Risk is doing is he is kind of like formally announcing himself as well as the rest of you. Because he doesn't know who is out there in the swamp around you, right? So he's kind of like formally announcing himself. And when he does, you hear him use a word that stands out to you. Very kind of strange initially. I can't find it real quick. Me and my fucking penchant for having fucking words.
You
For
words.
having fucking words.
For having
He
fucking
says-
words.
The Conqueror returns.
Yeah, that's what he says.
We don't know how malicious he is.
How great would that be
Uh,
if, like, Risk is actually, like, a displaced tyrant and we brought him back?
Oh shit.
no,
he was
no.
straight up exiled.
Ezra, you hear him introduce himself, and when he does, you recognize his name, right? Like his name is mostly the same, but it's embellished, right? There's it's right? Like there's this big croaking that goes along with it. But then he says, he uses this this word. It's like honored, our god, and it translates roughly to like he introduces himself as like Risk of the new generation.
And he's a new bullywug on the block.
And you hear, oh, and then he kind of like introduces all of you in a very kind of like a shorthand kind of way, right? He basically gives your names, but he doesn't say like Matashtai, right? Like he gives these kind of like weird croaking assimilations of the like the syllables of your names, right? And then he gives like a strange description of each of you, right? Like he calls Matashtai the white robed, right? And
Damn, he called you white.
Oh, you're part of the clan.
and
Matashtai with the whitey.
he calls Ashes the one with horns.
He's so horny.
So
Wee.
he does refer to you, Ezra, as the one with lightning skin,
I'll accept that.
right? Anyways,
What do you say
as
about me? Awesome.
And the cat.
The furry one.
no,
What's my descriptor?
he says,
Best
well-
friend of Rock?
no, he introduces the rock, right? But he says,
Yeah, he just doesn't introduce you. That's even worse.
Oh my God.
Man, let's fuck up. I'm mad.
he says of bones. He says, the one that can't be heard.
Yeah, here we go.
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
Really hard to tune him out. I don't know how accurate that is.
But so like this doesn't take long, right? Like Risk says all of this in about 15-20 seconds, right? It's all exchanged very quickly, and you can kind of like it's all in like one big series of croaks, right? With like little enunciations in between. And you're slightly distracted, so there's some little like interim piece, right, that he says afterwards, but again, you have to concentrate on your spell, so you miss that part. But you do hear the start of the reply, and it sticks out to you because you hear that word again. You hear a croak respond with basically a name, Kas, and then again that I need a god. Of the new, he says, Cass of the new generation. And there is this moment as the rest of these bullywugs are moving forward, and they're all kind of like in the same position as Risk, right? Like crouched low, kind of swimming with just their eyes and like little nose holes above the water. And this other bullywug croaks this out, Ezra, and none of the rest of you understand what's going on. It's just a bunch of croaking, and then all of a sudden Risk just stands up, right, and begins to kind of like flop forward, and the other one that is croaking begins to flop forward as well, and they get in front of each other. And they clasp hands and hug, right? And you can see strapped to the other one's back is a halberd nearly twice the size of it. And even though it's been kind of like you didn't see it because it's kind of like floating in the water with him. It is not. It's not mucky. It's not dingy. It's not covered in rust or anything like that. It is this beacon of metal and like a promise of pain that's just hanging off the back of this bullywug. But these two clasp like brothers, and then Risk turns to each of you, and they have a short exchange, and then Risk turns to each of you, and he says in Trader's tongue, right? He says, "They made it safe. The new generation yet stands."
I assume I'm still.
You're getting close. You're almost to the end of it. You
Awesome to hear,
see, you all hear that, right? And then as that happens, one of the bullywugs turns and begins to swim away. And Risk
The traitor.
looks over at him, and Cass looks over at him. And Cass says, in very broken trader's tongue, he says, "Much speak we do. Important things go for." And he starts, when he starts saying that, he's looking at Risk. Halfway through, he starts looking at the rest of you, and he says, "Your gift, water, not forgotten. Another gift may."
They already made it
Need
down
more.
here alone? Oh, sorry, Jeremy. I didn't mean to.
You're fine. Like, it was fun to see you guys go, "Ah!"
Yeah.
As
Like,
I
as
thought,
this
I thought I recalled the name Cass.
this bullywug,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Like your characters might have a slightly better memory
Yeah.
for what
So
happened
Cass,
3 years ago
Ass,
compared to Cass
it was
is
Cass, Ass, Izu, and Risk.
Cass is one of the
And
original
Izu
four that you
is the
guys
one
rescued.
that Risk is in love with.
And they're so are they all present? Did someone say that they all made it?
So Cass has not said that specific. He basically thanked you for the water, but Risk, right? Risk said when he turned to you, he said that the new generation yet stands, right? And you don't necessarily know what that is, but he seems to be implying that his friends are alive, right? That his friends made it. It is at that point, right? Like, the other two bullywugs come up, and they begin speaking. And right as they begin speaking, Ezra, you are finishing up your water breathing, and your comprehend languages ends. And they're speaking in bullywugs, so you're like, oh wait, I can. Oh shit. Right, like you have this moment and you're like, fuck it, and you just like release the water breathing onto the appropriate individuals. Boy with them claws.
Is bullywog a language, or is
Yep.
it?
Bullywug is a
Aquan.
language. Nope, it is actually
Its
bullywug.
own thing.
Damn,
Bullywuggy.
fucking Aquan still has no use.
Ow. Will you stop tapping me?
Tap him! Tap him!
Maybe if you
Yeah,
pet
boy.
him.
Tap him!
What you
Yeah,
rolling at me
oh.
for?
He's gonna roll off.
You need to get a puppy tree behind you, Mitchell.
Yes, a tree.
Yeah, he's too short. You can't see his ass.
Get him like a ramp
He
that
just
he
a
can
little
go
boy.
walk up.
No, he didn't
well,
need to
I,
be up
I
there.
have thought
Every
about
time,
getting like a little like ramp and like a bed, so you can like sit right here next
Yeah.
to me.
every time his little ass gets up high, he hurts himself.
You could
Yeah,
put
right.
like a dog bed on your table behind you.
This guy.
Yeah.
I thought that's a super special chest. You don't want anything
Yeah,
on
that's
it.
actually a hope chest that
Ow.
Rachel's
No,
grandfather
sir.
made for her.
See,
So
that's right.
bad.
Even I knew that.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know that him running around on it would be great.
Stop that.
Fair enough. Just throwing ideas out here.
No, I mean, it's not a bad idea.
Is the hope
gonna-
still in it?
Okay,
Yep, there's still hope in it.
so
That's good.
the other
Not for long.
bullywug disappears into the darkness. And Risk turns to you all after a short conversation with the other two bullywugs, one of which then leaves and heads east as well, right? And the other seems like they're gonna stay with you guys for now. Okay?
Hey, Jeremy. Boom mic.
Yeah, I mean it's just
Okay,
Netflix
I
ads.
can't tell
Yeah.
what it is.
I'm trying to keep it out of Odie's reach.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we're not watching anything. It's just Netflix
The
ads.
Odie boy.
Thank you though.
It's bad.
Okay, so
Hardcore pornography.
Risk turns to each of you, and he speaks because he's got a little more of a handle on Trader than Koss does. He says, "Things are still in flux within our tribe. There are deep rifts between those who follow Yerk and those who do not. We should..." You have no more obligations here, friends.
Wait, do we hate Yerk? Does Yerk suck?
We don't know
Yerk's
yet.
the one that was installed by Halaster.
So we're under the impression that Yerk sucks.
We don't know
we're
yet.
kind
He
of-
could be cool.
I think the only thing involving Halaster that wasn't aggressively a detriment was Halistry.
I don't know, dude. Halaster's been a pretty cool dude so far. You know, he had that mirror. We talked. You know, he's just kind of messed around. He hadn't done anything real bad. He has
Yeah,
that
he
tree.
definitely said
He's just a
kidnap a
trickster.
bunch
He
of
is not
things.
actually
He-
like a bad
he
He
person.
gave Willow that whole forest. Willow's cool.
Yeah, Willow's cool.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I gave you guys more of that particular story from someone.
I don't recall that though. So
Huh?
He also didn't, kidnap a bunch of creatures and people and petrify them in his menagerie.
yeah, we can't prove that he did that.
Big air quotes with that one.
We have someone right here that can attest
We
to
have
it.
several people here.
We don't know how they got there.
The little robot dude confirmed it.
Yeah, robot. What does a robot know?
What does a robot know? Okay, so Risk looks at each of you, right, and he says he's starting to say we should, and then he realizes and he stops himself and he says, "Friends, you have no more obligations here, but I must go to my tribe. I must meet their needs as best I can.
Like sexually or
If you would come with
God.
me, you can make your own choice."
I look to the group.
yeah, I'm
looking
down for a good time.
For a nod or a shake.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down for a good time.
All right. Risk
Okay.
your
We're
buddy.
We're adventurers, and we smell an adventure.
We want to see what's going on.
All right. There's a short exchange in Bullywug, and the other Bullywug heads north, leaving you all. And then Risk looks at you all and says, "Are you ready to travel?"
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I was like, for what?
like he says it, he does. He says it in this kind of like ominous way. "Are you ready?" And then he like realizes what he says and he says to go.
Mortal Kombat!
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
Then he and Cass begin to head north down that passage. So
They
You will-
skipping while they're holding hands.
No, they are not. They actually like go back down into that kind of like crouched, barely above the surface kind of movement.
Where the tops of their head are actually like bulging out, but not breaking water surface tension.
Yep. So they begin to move northward. You all are free to follow in the thigh to waist high water as
We
you
follow.
move northward. Okay. So I mean, like, actually, unless you guys want me to move you around in a square, you can follow. Which would you prefer? You guys want me to
Which
move you in a
direction?
square?
Where to go? I mean, I don't care.
We're going to north.
Square me up. Yeah, whatever. Square me up.
me up, Daddy.
Ooh, daddy. Daddy. Square me up,
Daddy.
daddy. Put me in a square, daddy.
All right. There is a slight fork in this path. As you guys are kind of following Risk and Ask up, you see Ask stops here, and he goes to the western tunnel, and you see him kind of like stand up, and he goes, and he just croaks real loud down that tunnel, right? Just holds it long, croaks, and then he stops and he moves to the northern tunnel and he croaks 3 times in short bursts. And then they begin to proceed northward.
Daddy, I want a frog too.
Want a frog too?
Oh, daddy.
I mean, you are like the pet keeper here. Do you want a frog?
Moxie's an intelligent person,
And
not a pet.
okay. All right. So, there is a series of croaks that comes from the east of you, and you see a couple things as you come into this.
Ooh, Nelly, that's a big boy.
You round the corner, and you see a big ass fucking frog, a giant frog, standing in the water, and it's the water's coming up to about its chest, I guess, right? And it's just kind of like sitting there casually, looking at you. And as it does, you see its eyes blink, and a massive tongue shoots out to the right, and you can see it just swaths through this this swarm of midges and comes away just coated in insects that it rolls back into its mouth. And coming up from the south after a series of croaks, you see you see a bullywug with a scar down the side of his face, who is wearing. Oh, by the way, shit, I should have done this earlier. Sorry. Unlike most of the other handouts, you guys get to have this handout very early on in this level. Most of the other levels handouts you don't get until way later. This one you get pretty much right off the bat. So this is the handout for level 8 Slither Swamp. So
Bullywug encounter.
yeah, Bullywug.
God, that spear looks painful.
Right.
No.
So
I
most
really like that though. The promise of pain. That's really good.
Most of the bullywugs that you see are in some strange like leathers or like
Yeah, he
pieces
looked
that look
buff.
almost kind of like wood, that type of stuff, right? The bullywug that steps out in front of you, in front of this giant toad, is actually dressed in half plate. Kind of like walks out in front, and he has his hand on his hilt, the hilt of a what looks to be like a bone short sword at his side, right?
Bro, where you get that?
And it looks like bones. I'll describe it because your eyes, I imagine, would immediately alight. It looks to be like the jaw of a thing that still has the teeth in it, and that's the blade on one side, basically.
Damn, that's a sick design.
And this bullywug breathes deep and looks at Risk and says, in almost flawless trader tongue, right? He says, "Brother, you have returned to us and brought with you the water givers. It is good to see you all." As
water givers.
As Ask is standing in front of you, and there is this exchange, like Risk moves forward and the two embrace, and then Cass comes in and re-embraces Risk, right? As this kind of like moment of familial bond or brotherly love is brought back into existence. But it's a very strange kind of like thing to witness, because there's not like a lot of crying or emotional like sounds or statements or anything like that. It's like you might witness up on Waterdeep, right? If two families or missing family members were reunited. They just kind of like stand and embrace, right? I think even those with bad perception would notice this at this point, right? This being one of the like longest moments that you see kind of like just with nothing happening. You realize along with while they are embracing, nope, don't you dare, sir. That's why it's out of the way. Each of them has their mouth open very slightly, and they're breathing in, like inhaling really deeply. Anyways. Sir, you're gonna touch it. I know you are. I hate you. Don't do it. Oh, just good boy. Okay. Anyways. This moment does hang for a second, so there is an opportunity for you guys to do something or say something or something like that. Or are you just gonna wait the moment out?
I'm sorry, I lost.
I got a little bit
concentration.
lost in the.
What do we
exposition.
notice? You talked to Odie in the middle of it, and I lost the thread.
So they said we are the water givers. Was there something they were saying to us after?
No.
that?
They were embracing
Okay.
and like
They just like
being
hugged
happy.
real long.
Yeah, they just
or-
hugged real long. Yeah.
Okay.
What's the implication that we're noticing with our low perception?
It's like they're smelling each other as a part of it.
All right, cool.
Kinky.
Like they're not like crying, they're not like gushing with words or croaking constantly. They're just like embracing and seem to be like they're smelling each other.
Pheromonal
Well,
communication.
I step up to introduce myself and I say, "Howdy, y'all. I'm Matt." Kind of motion to the others. to introduce themselves.
Ask looks at you and he's like Cass steps back behind him and actually Risk steps to his left, right? All of them now kind of like facing you, and Ask looks at you and he says, "I remember your name, one with the barrel."
There
One
you go.
with the barrel.
Other kind of waves behind him.
We thank y'all for welcoming us here.
Ask looks at you and he says, "You are welcome here, but I cannot tell you for how long.
Yes.
What do you know of our tribe, and he kind of like looks at Risk, and Risk kind of shrugs and says, "What I knew," and Ass kind of sighs and nods, right? And he holds up his hand to kind of like halt you from like answering, right? And like now he gets it, right? He says, "Things are not going well. The Lord of Fetid Obliteration rules us."
Title. Holy
Fetid?
shit. The Lord of Fetid Obliviation.
Sweet title. I gotta start thinking of a sweet title.
Was it
for me on the
Obliviation or
Ob-
Obliteration?
Obliteration.
Obliteration. Okay.
Lord of Fetid Obliteration.
He says
We're dealing with Nurgle? Is that what's
says
going on?
the Lord of
Apparently, we're fighting Nurgle.
the Lord of Fetid Obliteration rules us poorly. He uses our lives unwell, sacrifices us
Oh, I did actually have that written down.
in a war that we should not be waging. Every day, he presses more into his service. His control of our food supply, more importantly, of our spawning, makes it so that opposing him is difficult.
Whom do you
So-
serve?
Y'all are actively fighting him.
We cannot.
Who are you fighting?
We die to the Queen of Bones and the Sethian Scourges.
I look sideways. Don't know. Just kind of make myself small here.
And you're not covered in bones right now or anything.
So, sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding the political situation here. So, the Lord of Fetid Obliteration is Yerk, right?
His name is Yerk Yablorflug.
Oh.
Yerk Got
So
it.
we just kill him real quick, right? Quick in and out.
No, wait.
It
wait.
is not-
York and the Lord of Fetid Obliteration the same person.
Yes.
Okay.
It's good to
Um,
clarify. It's good thinking.
It is not that simple.
Why?
York is a powerful foe, and he has the aid of Zetlal.
Who now?
What's a Zetlal?
It is at that point, right, that you hear an older voice.
I bet it's a really big frog.
You hear an older voice as
Horn
two other bullywugs come out of one of the side tunnels. And you can see one is standing straight and kind of like just walking forward. The other is kind of hobbling, leaning heavily on a gnarled stick, right? And it is that one that is speaking. And that one says, Zetlal is, or was, our guardian. A Hydra. Good kiss. Ezra, you can take you can take a DM inspiration if you do not already have it.
Awesome.
And so this individual says this and is walking forward, but as they are, the other individual kind of rushes forward, stops directly in front of Risk, and then embraces him. And as that happens, the old bullywug, they make some room around here. The old bullywug steps forward and says, "It is good. The new generation reunited. The bond reforged. Our people will be led to their future." I think at this point, right, there are several other bullywugs and these giant toads in here. This old bullywug kind of like waves a hand, and they don't fuck off, right? They don't leave, but you see them kind of go to the entrances around this place, and they kind of like usher you into the space itself, right? So that you can begin to kind of like meet in private, basically.
Thank you.
So let me describe the space for you. Basically what you find yourself is again, the ceilings to these places don't seem to be very high. They're not the vaunted caverns of the stone giants or other places that you've been before. It's only about 20 feet high up to the ceiling here from the surface of the swamp. Now, the swamp does like go up to your thigh here, right? So there it's kind of like a little bit of deception on how large it is, but it's not as big as a lot of other places you've traversed. There are two little hovels made of stones and mud in the bottom left corner of this cave. And they're lit by large fireflies in these little like wicker cages and glowing moss. And it is kind of like against that backdrop of these two little huts that the new generation kind of like arranges itself, and in between them, or kind of like in front of them, this old bullywug kind of stands and looks out at all of you. And he says, "I have heard of the water givers. Your aid has very likely given hope to our tribe. You should be celebrated. A feast of slug and worm." And he kind of cocks his head and he looks at a couple of your faces, and he kind of like,
delightful.
you see him kind of like crack his mouth open, and he goes in this very weird laugh, right? And Risk has almost no sense of humor, so it's very off-putting to have this old bullywug have this sense of humor, right? Like this weird laugh.
Sense of humor. I can appreciate that.
But he looks at you and he says, "You are guests with the Black Tongues. What may we do for you?" And you hear this kind of like start from behind you, right? Or not behind you, but from like behind him. As Cass, the one with the halberd, is kind of like grumbling, like, and making some sort of like elbowing ask next to him, like, "What the fuck? What can we do? We got some shit going on." Like he's not saying that, right? He's grumbling in bullywug, but it's clear that he's like annoyed, or like, what the fuck are we talking about? What can we do for them type situation. But you see this old bullywug turn, and he glares at Cass, and Cass just kind of like shuts up, right? And the bullywug kind of like turns, and he says, "Once again, what can the Black Tongue tribe do for the water givers?"
Well, we'd like to help where we can, and understand that it sounds like your situation has changed. But our intent is to eventually head towards Dwermicor.
Seek the halls of magic, where
We do.
demons and death roam.
We do.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Not by choice.
Would that
Kind
we
of by
were
choice.
would that we were far from its borders.
But before that, Risk is a friend. You all are the new generation. We'd like to help if we can.
Yeah. Actually, you know what'd be really helpful right now? This Yerk the Jerk. Tell us more about him. Like, what is he? Is he like weak to something? Is there like fire really hurt him more than anything else?
Why are you?
Weapons does he use? You could
Well,
have
I
like
don't even know if he.
magic.
You got like a map or anything like that?
Yeah. Can you just uncover the map for us?
No. You
Just-
guys
just
can
open
you
it
guys
all
can
up.
ask that every
Open it
time, and
all
it's
up.
never gonna happen.
They live here. They should have a map.
Never
They
say
they
never,
live
Jeremy.
they live in certain portions of here.
Okay, well, can you map out the certain portions of here?
Yeah, potentially.
That's
so
good enough for me.
the old bullywug looks at you and he says, "Let us start with introductions. I am Culp, broker
Culp?
of the Blacktongue tribe.
Pulp? Like,
Culp, Kulp.
that's close.
Culp.
What was his title again? Sorry, I was distracted by.
Croaker
Oh, Blacktongue.
of the Blacktongue tribe. Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you, Cole.
The one who walks in white with the barrel from within the magic bag.
Long title, but I guess that's me.
Yeah, White Walker.
Did you say your name?
What's your name?
Yeah, I did
Okay.
earlier.
Well, you said it earlier when he wasn't here.
Oh, right. Sorry. Then yes, then I would introduce myself. Pleasure to meet you, Colt. My name's Matt.
He looks over at Bones and he says, "The quiet, pensive one who likes to stick things."
I am pensive, yes.
Oh, he's serious.
It's from what he knows.
Also, Chief of the Skull Takers. Bones.
Skull Takers.
Yeah, we live on the 6th.
Kind of blinks at you. He's not quite sure what that means. He says, "We will discuss later, if necessary."
Yeah, right.
He looks over at Ashes. Says, "Red skin, horns. You are the one that smells of fury and fur."
Accurate. Yes, I am Ashes. A hunter from the forest of sharp teeth.
Damn, Chief Fury
Oh.
Stank.
God.
He looks at Ezra and he says,
Titles, right? Like, I don't know.
You smell of wet dog.
basically,
That's
right.
Because it's very moist here.
And then he looks at Ezra and he says, "The one with lightning skin. Hides, but shouldn't."
So point of inquiry. I've been more open about letting it loose when we've come down here. I didn't kill everyone when I stepped in the water, did I?
No. No. I don't play the whole like, oh, lightning is like, oh, you touched water with lightning, everything's dead. No. Like
Figured
it's
I'd
one
ask.
thing if you're all like in an underwater room and you unleash a lightning bolt in the middle of it, that might cause some issues, but you occasionally sparking is not like a thing. No.
It's a little tingle here or there, but Ezra's the name. What am I hiding? What?
Magic's the game.
He looks back and
pick a
he
card.
says, "My companions have told me stories. They
boy.
believe you more powerful than you lead on. They advise bravery in the future.
They're the strong ones. I just help where I can.
He's being modest. This dude can drop a.
Culp looks at you and he says, I do not believe that is true.
That makes one of us.
You had questions.
Yeah. Just curious about this yurt person. The Lord of Fetid Obliteration.
Your leader, as we come to understand.
Like,
A title
What-
of his own choosing.
what is his?
Yerk Lofo.
What is his? Is he also a bullywug?
Yes.
There is much
Yeah,
to
be a
discuss
big one.
here.
Yeah, we know nothing.
Jon Snow.
Should I
We
start
know nothing.
at the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Hard to start much other place.
Culp raises his hand, and actually, Cass and Risk get up, and they both go into the separate hovels. And you hear them rummaging around in there, and you see them bring out platters of various food stuff, and they start to pass things around to the other bullywugs. And Risk comes over with, like, you see the platter that Cass has is decidingly, like, it's mostly like slugs and worms and insects and things like that. Risk comes towards you all with a platter that is slightly different. It has more of like fungus and things like that on it. Something that Risk has determined to be more palatable for you all, with his limited experience, that type of scenario.
Skull takers do love fungi.
Right. So they basically like serve you a meal while you are going through the motions of this. So Culp begins to weave a tale for you, and he says, "We have not always been here. The Black-Tongue tribe once lived far away. I think. In truth, it is hard to tell. Not much more than a year ago, we were whisked from our homes, deposited here. Things were difficult at first. We did not know where we were. We did not know what dangers awaited us. We lost a quarter of the tribe in that first month. Such losses would not be untenable if we had our own control of situations. But early after we were placed here, the creature who did this to us returned. And he did so, bringing with him a new leader for the tribe, when there had once been no leader. Yerk, the self-titled Lord of Obliteration. At first, we listened to his rule because we did not know why we shouldn't. He was strong and fierce, and not unwise. But he was callous and unforgiving. He used us poorly and cast aside many lives. Oi! Tap, tap.
Wow, that was several taps.
Yeah, he was just going at it.
Multi-tap strike.
Culp continues, right? He says, "We have sussed out much since our time here. after that first month, we were able to determine that we had been placed where once others lived. The Sethians. I do not know how to describe them in this tongue. Snake-like creatures of many forms.
Yuan-Ti.
They were locked in war with their mortal enemies. Enemies that eventually defeated them. The Mage under the mountain brought us here to fill the gap their defeat had caused. Now we find ourselves locked in combat with the Sethians' scourges. Still, all of this might have been bearable. We might have come to an accord with Yerk, or might have even removed him from power, if it were not for Halaster's final return. And then he looks back at the new generation. He took from us our will, our strength, our courage, and our knowledge.
Like the Triforce? Or I guess the Quad Force?
He doesn't
How
know
do
what
you do
that
that?
is.
What do you do with it?
He petrified them and whisked them away to be saved by you.
We did that.
But they have been gone for some time, and in their absence, the tribe has split. Yerk controls much, including the spawnings, and with each death, his control grows as more are spawned and then taken and indoctrinated by his cult of followers. Their numbers grow and their leadership improves. Says, previously, Corbett was one of our own, but now he follows Yerk, the Lord's hand in the darkness. And even more recently, a new lieutenant has joined the fray. Zartem, a strong arm, showed up from nowhere. Still, all of this might be something that we could handle with the return of our hope, if it were not for Zetlal. Zetlal came with us from our old home.
How long ago was this old home?
A little over a year.
Oh, geez, so these guys have not been here long.
Zetlol's the Hydra, right?
Yes.
Zetlal
Okay.
was once our protector and our friend. He has been with the Black-Tongue tribe for a long time. I do not know why she has turned against us, why she obeys Yerk's commands. But as long as she does, we are powerless to stop the Lord of Fetid obliteration. even if we could defeat both of their might combined, I could not take losing a friend.
Was that low? Don't kill the Hydra. Got it.
So, is this like a magical spell that Zetlal is under, or is this just
We
good
do not know.
old-fashioned-
Early on, when Yerk took control of the tribe, we thought to follow him. We had never had a leader before. Perhaps it would be a good thing. It did not turn out that way.
It was not a good thing.
Zetlal followed our lead and participated under Yerk's command in many battles against the Sethian scourges. But we made no progress against the Immortals, and so were pushed back each time. Somewhere along the way, Zetlal stopped listening to us, only heeding Yerk's commands.
So it's not as easy as just walking up and kicking Yerk's ass. We've got like an entire army of your previous allies and a Hydra.
It is a complicated political situation, made worse by the fact that we also have the mortal enemies of the scourges themselves. To make matters worse, he looks over at Ezrah. The halls of magic are not friendly to our kind.
Well, hopefully we can take one of those hurdles off of your back to alleviate some issue.
I advise caution should you seek that place.
Oh, duly noted.
Its guardian prefers those that walk without flesh.
Damn, same.
I mean, technically, yeah, actually. Fuck.
Let's just get in the way, you know?
That's fair.
You're not wrong, though. This is pretty complicated. You have a lot of friends, a lot of former allies that we don't want to hurt in the process.
How are they being reborn into Yerk's?
They're not being reborn. New people are being spawned, or new bullywugs are being spawned and then raised from birth.
Right,
to
but like
follow him.
when one dies, another one is birthed, but they mentioned one that by name that was once with them that is now
This
he
place
just
can
joined them.
only sustain so many creatures. We spawn when we have need to fill our ranks.
I'm like really
That.
more concerned with the
like an entity limit in like software.
Yeah, basically kind of along those lines. So, as one of the old tribe falls, a new one is born and brought into Yerk's fold. Corbett is one of the old ones. Culp kind of sighs and he says, Corbett was always in the shadow of a god of the new generation. And when he speaks, right, like Culp is like the new generation, right? Like he's kind of croaking as he does, right? Like I'm speaking very smoothly compared to what he does. But like he enunciates that really hard, right? Like this other bullywug was like could have been someone important, right? Someone great, but was always in the shadow of the other four. And Culp says, when they were stolen away, Corbett saw his chance for greatness. He joined Yerk freely.
He is still considered friend, though.
Culp turns and looks at the other four. And
It's Culp.
each one of them kind of like sets their jaws and nods. And Culp turns back to you and he says, it is agreed upon. Corbett has too much blood upon his hands. Unless he comes willing and asking for forgiveness, he is no longer a friend of the Black Tongue tribe.
Noted.
Well,
Pretty concerned about this mortal enemy, the undying ones, what they say, the immortal ones.
The Sethian Scourges?
Sethian Scourge.
Yeah, but they said they were
Sethians-
immortal. How does that
Yeah,
work?
they did say, he did mention they were supposedly immortal.
I'm more concerned with the idea that these aren't the Sethians. These are the Sethians'
What killed
Scourges. I would like some elaboration on what that denotation is.
I don't understand the difference.
The Sethians were those snake-like creatures that we replaced. We have taken their lands. They were locked in mortal battle. I almost said combat.
Waiting for it.
Like we were with the Sethian Scourges. They were defeated in the end by those three. Excrutha, Sarakath, Hexakali. The Immortals.
One of them was hurt real bad, though, right? Came the Queen of Bones.
He looks at you kind of like he nods and he says, in their final battle, the Sethians managed to bind the spirits of Hexakali to shunt her immortality, to make her a thing that could be destroyed. Unfortunately for them, they did not complete their ritual, and Hexakali became the Queen of Bones. In theory, she is now mortal. In practice, no weapon can harm her.
Problematic.
Okay, well, that was a lot. Just gonna be honest. I'm lost. I'm lost as hell. Y'all just point me in a direction and then let's go with killing. I don't
You
know
guys
what's
just
going
walked into a new level, and there's a lot of shit going on here.
Well, Lord of mercy, I am fucking out of it.
it is a lot, but I think we need to take this slow. I think we got to take some time, gather some more information,
Right.
scout out where Yerk, what he does, where he goes, who he talks to. We need to get a timeline of what his days look like. Because if it comes down to it, this kind of sounds like we need to take Yerk out without taking everybody else out.
Colt
That's gonna
looks
be
at you and he says,
far easier said than done.
Yeah, but if he's like if he's the whatever, the leader man keeping the Sethian Scourges from killing everybody, doesn't that just mean the Sethian Scourges are gonna kill everybody?
We can only solve one problem at a time, Bones. Can't.
So, what
You
are
want to
the
go take out
Sethian
the Scourges
Scourge?
first and give Yerk full power to handle this uprising?
No. What?
I thought we were killing Yurt.
Culp looks
We
at you
are.
all like you all are having this conversation, and Culp like butts in, right? He actually kind of like not only like speaks up, but he kind of like waddles over and kind of like gets involved, right? And he says, "All of you are speaking thoughtfully. You have good points. There is much to discuss. Tipping the balance in one way or the other could spell disaster if preparations are not made to handle them. We remove Yerk successfully, but at what cost? Do the Sethians attack and enslave the rest of us that remain? We defeat the Sethians, if that is indeed possible. But does that give Yerk the upper hand? I can guarantee his forces will not participate. And amongst all of this, there is the Hall of Magic to contend with. Should any side be weakened too drastically, well, that could be a dire problem. This and more we must discuss, but not, I think, at this moment.
Yeah, definitely.
I said before that you should be celebrated as the water givers, and I meant it. Will you accept our hospitality?
Yes, we will.
Yes,
I
we
will
will.
still throw up a dome.
And I think he nods at you at this point, and you see you begin to see Bullywugs kind of like scamper off, and it's clear that something is going to happen now. But we'll figure out what that something is the next time we play. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. We will be back next week with more Dungeon of the Mad Mage as the players explore this new level of the dungeon, the Slither Swamp. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.